The screen flickers. The studio lights cast a cold, almost surgical glow over the faces of Tom Bower and Piers Morgan as the camera zooms in. For a split second, there's silence, an eerie calm that precedes a storm. Then Piers leans forward, his voice low and deliberate, the kind of tone that tells you he's about to say something no one was ever meant to hear. What if I told you Meghan Markle's biggest secret isn't about the royal family at all? He begins, his eyes fixed on the teleprompter, though his words seem meant for just one person, the Duchess herself. What if I told you Harry once walked in on something so devastating it almost ended everything? Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. And just like that, the air in the studio tightens. For years, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have controlled their narrative. From their shocking exit from Buckingham Palace to their carefully curated interviews and glossy Netflix specials, the Sussexes have presented themselves as victims of a cold, uncaring institution, and the public, in large part, has either believed them or at least been willing to listen. But tonight, all of that threatens to unravel. This isn't a rumor whispered in the shadows of Buckingham Palace. This isn't an anonymous insider speaking to a tabloid. This is Tom Bower, author, journalist, relentless investigator, looking straight into the camera, saying he has uncovered a secret so explosive it could permanently shatter Meghan and Harry's carefully built image. And then comes Piers Morgan, fanning the flames. He promises not just words, but receipts, private texts, photographs, and even alleged footage. At the center of it all, Tyler Perry, the Hollywood mogul and billionaire who famously swooped in to offer Meghan and Harry refuge during their chaotic exit from royal life. He gave them his private jet. He gave them his mansion in Beverly Hills. He gave them protection when, according to Meghan, no one else would. But according to Bower and Morgan, Perry may have given Meghan far more than just friendship. And this is where things spiral into darkness. Sources close to the Sussex circle allege Harry once walked into a room at the Los Angeles mansion Perry lent them and found Meghan and Tyler in what was described as a deeply compromising position. The encounter reportedly sparked a furious confrontation between Harry and Meghan and left their marriage hanging by a thread. If this is true, why didn't the world hear about it sooner? Why wasn't the press, which has chased Meghan relentlessly for years, all over this story? The answer, Bower claims, is simple. It was covered up. Meghan and Harry's team allegedly moved fast to silence anyone who knew. Staff were reportedly made to sign strict non-disclosure agreements. Tyler Perry, a man who has spent decades building a flawless public image, reportedly went radio silent, refusing to even address the whispers that began circulating among Hollywood insiders. But now, years later, the dam is breaking. Tom Bower says multiple sources, people who worked closely with the Sussexes during their early months in America, have come forward with damning details. And Piers Morgan, never one to miss an opportunity to drag Meghan back into the headlines, claims to have obtained direct evidence, private messages between Meghan and Tyler that, he says, suggest their friendship wasn't as innocent as it seemed. This is no ordinary scandal. If these allegations are true, it could explain so much. Harry's increasing isolation, his visible anxiety in recent public appearances, and the strange coldness that has occasionally seeped through the couple's once-perfect facade. And yet, there's something even more unsettling beneath the surface. Why would Meghan risk everything? The royal title, the multi-million-dollar brand, even her children's future, for a relationship outside her marriage? Is this just another case of the media twisting facts to fit a narrative? Or is there a far darker truth that the Sussexes have worked tirelessly to keep buried? Tonight, we'll pull back the curtain. We'll take you inside the glittering world of Hollywood privilege and royal expectation. We'll examine how Meghan and Tyler Perry became so close, why Harry's inner circle reportedly feared Perry's influence over his wife, and how one shocking moment at a Los Angeles mansion may have changed the Sussex marriage forever. As we piece together this tangled web of friendship, betrayal, and cover-ups, you'll hear from insiders who claim to have witnessed it all, experts who understand the power dynamics at play, and skeptics who believe this is just another chapter in a long-running media vendetta. By the end of this story, one question will linger. Was Meghan Markle's fairy tale life in California built on a secret so destructive it could bring it all crashing down? And if Harry really did walk in on something so intimate between his wife and her so-called protector, why did he choose to stay silent? This isn't just about a marriage. It's about power, image, and how far people will go to protect the truth. Stay with us. You're about to hear the story Meghan and Harry never wanted the world to know. The first days after Harry and Meghan's explosive departure from the royal family felt like the quiet before a storm. On the surface, the couple appeared defiant, standing hand in hand as they waved to cameras and boarded planes bound for Canada and later, California. Behind the smiles, however, the reality was far more complicated. Theirs had been a decision that sent shockwaves through the centuries-old institution. For Meghan, it was supposed to be freedom at last. Freedom from the stifling protocols of Buckingham Palace, freedom from the relentless attacks of the British tabloids, and freedom to reinvent herself in a way no royal had ever dared. But as the doors of Frogmore Cottage slammed shut behind them, the world they entered was far colder than the one they'd left behind. It didn't take long for cracks to appear. The initial weeks in Canada were marked by an unsettling isolation. Stripped of their security detail, cut off from royal funding, and unsure of where they truly belonged, Harry and Meghan found themselves facing a new reality, one in which their royal titles carried little weight. As Harry struggled to find his footing away from the only life he had ever known, Meghan leaned heavily on her Hollywood connections. And then came Tyler Perry. To the outside world, Perry's gesture seemed altruistic. He offered them his private jet when the couple faced media harassment in Canada. He opened the doors to his $18 million Beverly Hills mansion, giving them a safe haven with round-the-clock security. He even provided his own bodyguards, reportedly at no cost. But to insiders, Perry's sudden appearance in Meghan and Harry's lives raised eyebrows. Tyler was like a knight in shining armor for Meghan. One source close to the Sussexes said. He came in at just the right moment, and Meghan adored him for that. But not everyone was comfortable with how close they became. In the early days, Harry reportedly welcomed Perry's generosity. Here was a man with immense wealth and influence in the United States, willing to shield his family during their most vulnerable moment. Meghan, too, felt safe. In Perry, she saw not just a friend but a powerful ally who understood her struggles as a black woman navigating fame, scrutiny, and the relentless demands of a predominantly white establishment. But as the weeks turned into months, Harry began to notice things that unsettled him. Staff at the Perry estate began whispering about late-night conversations between Meghan and Tyler that went on for hours, sometimes with doors closed and curtains drawn. Meghan seemed increasingly energized after these talks, while Harry, still adjusting to life in a foreign land, often kept to himself. It wasn't just that they were friends, one insider explained. It was the way Meghan lit up around him. She seemed to hang on his every word, and Tyler had this magnetic pull over her. You could tell Harry felt like the third wheel sometimes. Then came reports of Harry spending more time away from the house, taking long drives up the Pacific Coast Highway or retreating to nearby Malibu to surf in solitude. It's around this time, Tom Bower claims, that Harry first confided in a friend about his unease. Harry reportedly told someone he felt like a guest in Tyler Perry's home rather than a husband in his own marriage, Bower revealed. He said there were nights when he'd walk into a room, and Meghan and Tyler would fall silent, as if they'd been discussing something he wasn't meant to hear. Piers Morgan, never one to shy away from controversy, added fuel to the fire with his own revelation. According to Morgan, Meghan and Perry exchanged dozens of private messages during this period, messages that, he claims, go far beyond the bounds of ordinary friendship. I've seen the texts, Morgan said during his live broadcast. And let me tell you, there's no way Harry didn't sense something was off. What were in those messages? Flirty jokes? Heartfelt confessions? Or were they simply the conversations of two people who had become close under extraordinary circumstances? For Harry, the distinction may not have mattered. As Meghan settled into life at Perry's mansion, Harry reportedly grew more distant. Sources say he spent hours on the phone with friends in the UK, expressing doubts about his decision to leave the royal family. One friend told a British tabloid that Harry sounded lost and adrift, torn between supporting Meghan and missing the stability of his old life. And yet, Meghan flourished in her new environment. Hollywood's elite began courting her once more, eager to align themselves with the woman who had walked away from the British monarchy. She spoke passionately about racial justice and women's empowerment, garnering admiration and new opportunities. Meanwhile, Tyler Perry continued to play the role of confidant, helping Meghan navigate her next moves. But what no one outside their inner circle knew was how Harry's growing discomfort would lead to a moment that changed everything. It was late one evening, weeks after their arrival in Los Angeles, when Harry returned home earlier than expected from a meeting with a prospective charity partner. According to one source, he walked into the Perry mansion and stumbled upon Meghan and Tyler in what was later described as an intimate and compromising situation. What exactly Harry saw remains unclear. Some say the two were simply sitting close, deep in conversation, and Harry overreacted. Others claim it was far more damning, a moment that, had it been caught on camera, would have broken the internet. Whatever the truth, the aftermath was immediate and explosive. Staff reported hearing raised voices echoing through the vast mansion that night. Harry and Meghan allegedly argued for hours behind closed doors. Tyler, caught in the middle, reportedly tried to mediate, but his presence only seemed to enrage Harry further. Harry felt betrayed, an insider claimed. He didn't know if what he saw meant Meghan and Tyler had crossed a line or if he was just being paranoid. But either way, he couldn't shake the image from his mind. The next morning, Harry packed a bag and left the mansion for several days. Where he went is still a mystery, though some believe he stayed with Elton John, another longtime friend and mentor. Meghan, meanwhile, was said to be distraught, fearing the incident could mark the end of her marriage. If this story ended there, it might have faded into obscurity as just another Hollywood rumor. But Bower and Morgan insist that what happened next, a calculated cover-up, a web of non-disclosure agreements, and a desperate attempt to preserve the Sussex brand, makes this one of the most significant royal scandals of the decade. And as more former staff members come forward with their accounts, the question grows louder. Did Meghan's relationship with Tyler Perry ever truly remain platonic? Or did Harry's worst fears come true in that Beverly Hills mansion? In the chapters ahead, we will peel back the layers of this tangled story, examining how Meghan and Tyler's bond evolved, what Harry may have seen that night, and why, despite everything, he chose to stay silent. Because sometimes, the most devastating betrayals don't happen in the public eye. They happen behind closed doors, where even a prince can feel powerless to stop them. And now, after years of secrecy, the truth may finally be coming to light. Tom Bower is not a man who speaks lightly. For decades, he's carved out a reputation as one of Britain's most fearless biographers, the kind of writer who dives into murky waters others would never dare to enter. Politicians, billionaires, royals, none have been immune to his pen. And when it comes to Meghan Markle, Bower has long made it clear. He believes there's more to her story than the carefully cultivated image she presents to the world. It was during a primetime interview, in front of millions of viewers, that Bower decided to drop the first bombshell. The journalist sat stiffly in his chair, his hands folded neatly on his lap, but his words were anything but calm. People have asked for years why Meghan and Harry's marriage feels tense. Bower began, his voice measured yet carrying a sharp edge. The answer may be Tyler Perry. The host, visibly startled, pressed him. Are you suggesting there's more than friendship there? Bower nodded slowly. I'm saying there are whispers, persistent whispers, that Harry walked in on something between Meghan and Perry. Something that shook him to his core. The studio fell silent. For a moment, it felt as though the entire world had stopped breathing. It wasn't the first time Bower had gone after Meghan. In his best-selling biography, he painted her as an ambitious actress who had calculated her every move to climb the social ladder. Critics accused him of misogyny, of playing into racialized stereotypes, but Bower remained unfazed. To him, his work was about uncovering truth, no matter how uncomfortable. This time, however, even his fiercest detractors had to admit, the allegations were serious. Bower claimed his information came from two former staffers who worked at Tyler Perry's Beverly Hills mansion during the Sussex's stay. According to these insiders, Meghan and Perry shared an unusually close bond. There were reportedly long, hushed conversations on balconies, late-night visits to each other's rooms, and lingering touches that seemed to cross the line of ordinary friendship. One staffer allegedly described a moment when Harry entered a room to find Meghan and Perry standing very close, their hands touching. Harry didn't say a word, the staffer said, but his face turned white. He looked as if the ground had just disappeared beneath him. Bower recounted these details with the calm precision of a man dropping grenades into a room. Harry was furious, he said, not just at Meghan, but at himself. He'd uprooted his entire life, left his family and country, and now he was questioning everything. Critics were quick to question Bower's claims. Where was the evidence? Were these staffers credible? Was this just another attempt to destroy Meghan's reputation? But Bower wasn't done. In a follow-up interview, he doubled down, hinting at the existence of messages between Meghan and Perry that, in his words, would leave no doubt about the true nature of their relationship. He wouldn't say how he knew of these messages or whether he had seen them himself, but he didn't need to. The suggestion alone was enough to send shockwaves across social media. Royal watchers began combing through old interviews and photos, searching for signs they might have missed. One clip from Meghan and Harry's Oprah interview resurfaced, showing Meghan smiling warmly as she thanked Tyler Perry for his support. In hindsight, some claimed, her tone seemed unusually tender. Even those who defended Meghan admitted the optics weren't great. Piers Morgan, watching from the sidelines, saw an opportunity. For years, Morgan had railed against Meghan, accusing her of ghosting him after their brief friendship and of manipulating Harry into abandoning his family. Now, with Bower's revelations dominating headlines, Morgan prepared to strike. But Bower warned his audience not to dismiss this as just another tabloid frenzy. "This isn't about gossip," he said. "This is about understanding how the Sussex's world really works." Tyler Perry wasn't just a friend. He became the center of Meghan's universe in a way Harry could never quite accept. Bower's words left a chilling question hanging in the air. If Harry truly believed Meghan and Perry had crossed a line, why didn't he walk away? The answer, Bower suggested, was complicated. Harry has been conditioned his whole life to avoid scandal, Bower explained. He knows what it did to his mother. He knows how brutal the press can be. Walking away from Meghan would have confirmed every accusation made against her. And so, Harry stayed silent, not for love, but for self-preservation. Whether or not you believe Bower, his words cut deep. Was this the moment Meghan and Harry's marriage began to fracture? Was Perry an innocent bystander caught up in royal drama? Or was there truly something more? And perhaps most haunting of all, if Harry really did witness something that night in Beverly Hills, what does it say about the lengths he's willing to go to protect his wife and his own pride? As the world debated, Piers Morgan prepared to unveil his own evidence. Piers Morgan had been waiting for this moment. For years, he had carried a grudge against Meghan Markle, a grudge born from what he often described as betrayal. Their story was well known to the public by now, how Meghan, then a rising actress, had drinks with him in London, how he believed they had connected as friends, and how she never contacted him again after meeting Prince Harry later that same night. For Piers, Meghan's sudden coldness wasn't just personal. It became a symbol of what he saw as her manipulative rise to power. So when Tom Bower dropped his bombshell about Meghan and Tyler Perry, Piers didn't hesitate to throw himself into the fray. Unlike Bower, who delivered his accusations in a calm, measured tone, Piers was pure fire. He burst onto his live broadcast that night with an energy that bordered on manic. His eyes flashed as he shuffled through a stack of papers on the desk in front of him. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice loud and cutting. "We've been fed lies for far too long. Lies about Harry and Meghan. Lies about their marriage. Lies about their escape from the royal family. And now, finally, the truth is starting to trickle out." The camera zoomed in, capturing every flicker of triumph on his face. "You heard Tom Bower's claims," he continued. "But what if I told you there's more? What if I told you I've seen messages, private, intimate messages, between Meghan Markle and Tyler Perry? Messages that raise serious questions about the nature of their so-called friendship." A collective gasp seemed to sweep across social media as clips of his words spread like wildfire. To his critics, this was classic Piers, loud, dramatic, and hungry for attention. But to his supporters, he was finally the man willing to speak truth to power, to pierce through what they saw as Meghan's carefully crafted public persona. As Piers spoke, he held up what appeared to be printed screenshots of text conversations. The messages were blurred for television, but he described them in vivid detail. Late-night chats that went on for hours, Piers said. Messages filled with heart emojis, private jokes, and phrases like, "You understand me better than anyone." Does that sound like a casual friendship to you? He let the question hang in the air. Then, in a moment that would dominate headlines for days, Piers played what he claimed was a short video clip. The footage, allegedly taken by a member of Perry's household staff, showed Meghan and Tyler seated closely on a plush sofa in the Beverly Hills mansion's sunroom. Meghan was laughing softly, her hand resting on Tyler's knee. "Now, I'm not saying they were caught in the act," Piers said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "But I am saying Harry would have every reason to be concerned if he walked in on this moment." The reaction was instant and polarizing. Supporters of Meghan dismissed the footage as innocuous. "Friends touch each other's knees all the time," one viewer tweeted. "Piers is grasping at straws." Others, however, weren't so sure. "This doesn't look good," another user wrote. "Why would Meghan be sitting like that with another man while her husband is away?" Even some royal commentators began to question the Sussexes' carefully managed narrative. But Piers wasn't finished. He went on to recount what he called the night Harry lost control. According to his sources, Harry had returned home earlier than expected from a meeting in Los Angeles. Entering the mansion, he had heard laughter coming from the sunroom and decided to investigate. What he found, Piers claimed, sent him into a rage. "The details are murky," Piers admitted. But those who were there say Harry confronted Meghan and Tyler. There was shouting, doors slamming, and Harry reportedly stormed out of the house that night. As if to underline his point, Piers leaned forward and jabbed a finger at the camera. "This isn't just a minor tiff between spouses. This is a prince who sacrificed everything, his family, his country, his legacy, only to wonder if he made the biggest mistake of his life." Critics accused Piers of fueling a witch hunt, of twisting innocuous moments into a scandalous narrative. But to Piers, that didn't matter. He was on a mission, and nothing, certainly not Meghan's legal team or Harry's silence, was going to stop him. "Ask yourself this," Piers said in closing. "Why has Harry looked so miserable in recent months? Why does Meghan's smile never seem to reach her eyes anymore? Could it be that their fairy tale has already crumbled, and they're desperately trying to hide it from the world?" By the end of his broadcast, hashtags like hashtag Piers vs. Meghan and hashtag Tyler Perry trended worldwide. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry's representatives declined to comment. Tyler Perry, too, remained silent, though a cryptic post appeared on his social media hours later. "Don't let people pull you into their chaos. Protect your peace." Was it a denial? Or a subtle acknowledgement of the storm swirling around him? As the world debated, one thing was certain. Piers Morgan had reignited a firestorm that threatened to consume the Sussex brand. But the question remained, how much of this was based on truth, and how much was a carefully constructed narrative designed to take Meghan down? And if Harry really did witness something that night in Los Angeles, why has he chosen to suffer in silence? In the next chapter, we'll explore the night of the alleged confrontation in excruciating detail, reconstructing the events that insiders say nearly tore Meghan and Harry apart. Because sometimes, it's not the truth that destroys a marriage. It's the secrets. It was a warm California evening, the kind of night where the air hung heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant hum of the city felt muted beneath the stars. Inside Tyler Perry's sprawling Beverly Hills mansion, the atmosphere was serene, at least on the surface. The estate was a fortress of luxury and seclusion. High gates kept prying eyes at bay, and staff moved silently through the halls, trained to anticipate their guests' every need. For Meghan Markle, it had become a sanctuary. After the turbulence of Megxit and the relentless scrutiny from British tabloids, Perry's home offered a rare reprieve. Here, she was no longer the Duchess of Sussex bound by royal protocol. Here, she could laugh freely, speak her mind, and lean on someone who understood the weight of fame and public expectation. But for Harry, that night felt different from the start. He had been out most of the day, attending a private meeting with potential partners for the couple's fledgling foundation. The drive back from West Hollywood had been unusually long. Traffic on the 405 was suffocating, and as his car crawled forward, Harry's mind churned with doubts he could no longer suppress. In recent weeks, he had felt like a ghost haunting someone else's life. Meghan seemed energized, glowing even, while he felt increasingly isolated in a city that didn't yet feel like home. There were moments when she would disappear into long conversations with Tyler, moments when Harry would walk into a room and feel the energy shift, as if he had intruded on something private. It was nearing 10 p.m. when Harry pulled through the gates and parked his black SUV in the driveway. The mansion loomed before him, its warm lights glowing like a beacon. Yet as he stepped out of the car and crossed the stone path to the front entrance, he couldn't shake the tightness in his chest. The house was quiet when he entered. Too quiet. Harry paused in the grand foyer, listening. Somewhere in the distance, he heard faint music, soft jazz drifting from the sunroom at the far end of the hall. He followed the sound, his footsteps muffled by the thick Persian rug beneath his feet. As he approached, voices reached his ears. A laugh, Meghan's laugh, light and musical, the one that had captivated him all those years ago. But there was another voice too, deeper and smoother. Tyler Perry. The door to the sunroom was slightly ajar. Light spilled out into the hallway, and as Harry neared, he could make out their silhouettes through the frosted glass. Meghan sat curled on one end of the sofa, her legs tucked beneath her. Tyler was beside her, leaning in slightly as he spoke. Between them sat a bottle of wine, half empty, and two glasses glinting in the soft lamplight. Harry froze. From where he stood, he couldn't hear their words, but he didn't need to. The sight alone was enough to send a wave of nausea rising in his throat. Meghan's hand rested lightly on Tyler's knee as she laughed again, her head tilting back in amusement. Tyler reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face in a gesture that felt far too intimate. For a long moment, Harry couldn't move. Something inside him cracked. He pushed the door open, harder than he intended. It slammed against the wall with a sharp thud, making both Meghan and Tyler jump. "Harry!" Meghan exclaimed, her voice laced with surprise. And was that guilt? Tyler stood quickly, his hands raised slightly as if in surrender. "Harry, mate, this isn't what it looks like." Harry's eyes darted between them. He felt the blood pounding in his ears, a roaring sound drowning out their words. "Not what it looks like." He shot back, his voice low but trembling with barely contained rage. "I leave for one bloody evening, and I come back to find this?" Meghan stood now too, her face pale. "Harry, please. You're overreacting. Tyler and I were just talking." "Talking?" Harry's laugh was sharp and humorless. "That's what you call it?" Tyler tried to step forward, but Harry raised a hand to stop him. "Don't," he warned. "Just don't." The tension in the room was suffocating. For a moment, no one spoke. Meghan's eyes glistened with unshed tears, but Harry refused to meet her gaze. Instead, he turned on his heel and strode out of the room, his footsteps heavy against the marble floor. "Harry, wait." Meghan called after him, but he didn't stop. In the hallway, staff members pretended not to notice as Harry stormed past. He grabbed his car keys from the foyer table and yanked the front door open. Within seconds, the roar of the engine echoed through the quiet night as he sped off into the darkness. Back in the sunroom, Meghan collapsed onto the sofa, her hands covering her face. Tyler stood motionless for a moment before sinking into a chair, his expression unreadable. Neither spoke. It wasn't until the next morning that staff noticed Harry's absence. His SUV was gone, and his room untouched. Meghan, red-eyed and silent, refused to answer questions. Tyler kept his distance, retreating to his private quarters for most of the day. Later, whispers among the household staff began to spread. "Did you hear them arguing last night?" one maid whispered to another. "They say Harry caught them together," the other replied in hushed tones. "It must have been bad. He hasn't come back." By evening, Meghan was on the phone with Harry's closest friends, trying to track him down. Some say he stayed with Elton John. Others claim he checked into a private villa along the Malibu coast to clear his head. Wherever he went, Harry remained unreachable for 2 days. When he finally returned, the house felt colder. Meghan greeted him at the door, her eyes pleading, but Harry brushed past her in silence. From that day on, insiders say something shifted in their marriage. To the outside world, they maintained appearances, hand-holding at public events, loving gazes during interviews. But behind closed doors, Harry became quieter, more withdrawn. Meghan, too, seemed changed, her once unshakable confidence now tinged with a flicker of unease. What really happened that night? Was Harry's anger justified? Or did he misinterpret an innocent moment between two close friends? And if it truly was a misunderstanding, why has neither Meghan nor Tyler ever spoken publicly about it? According to Tom Bower, the reason is simple: damage control. Meghan and Harry's entire brand depends on the image of a perfect, united couple, Bower explained in a recent interview. Admitting even the possibility of infidelity, or Harry's suspicion of it, would destroy everything they've built in America. But can a marriage survive when trust has been broken, even if only in perception? As whispers of that fateful night began to circulate quietly within the walls of the Beverly Hills mansion, a well-oiled machinery sprang into action, one designed to protect the Sussexes' carefully crafted image at all costs. The cover-up was swift, strategic, and ruthless. From the outset, Meghan and Harry's inner circle recognized that the fallout from such a scandal could be catastrophic. The royal exit had already attracted intense media scrutiny, and adding a story of alleged infidelity or emotional betrayal could unravel their entire brand. According to insiders, the first step was to contain the narrative internally. Staff members present during the incident were immediately brought into private meetings with the Sussex communications team. They were reminded, firmly but discreetly, that their loyalty was paramount. Many were asked to sign new confidentiality agreements, some reportedly with financial incentives attached, binding them legally to silence. One former staffer revealed, "We were told that anything discussed within those walls stays within those walls. There were hints of severe consequences for anyone who broke that trust." Next came the media blackout. Unlike the usual leaks and candid scoops that frequently pepper the British tabloids, there was a notable absence of any reports on this incident. Journalists who might have had sources were reportedly approached by representatives of the Sussex team and Parry's camp, both urging discretion and threatening legal action for defamation. The message was clear: no one was to touch this story. Meanwhile, Harry's apparent disappearance for several days following the confrontation was officially attributed to personal reasons and a brief retreat to clear his head. Statements emphasized the couple's unity and resilience, painting the incident as nothing more than a minor disagreement blown out of proportion by tabloids hungry for sensational headlines. But behind closed doors, the atmosphere was anything but peaceful. Friends close to Harry say he became increasingly withdrawn, battling feelings of betrayal and confusion. The man who had once been a vibrant, outgoing prince seemed to fade into shadows. Some speculated that he began questioning not just Meghan's loyalty but his own judgment in leaving the royal family. Meghan, on the other hand, reportedly threw herself deeper into her relationship with Tyler Perry, leaning on him for emotional support and guidance through the storm. Their bond, which had already raised eyebrows, now seemed unbreakable. The cover-up extended beyond silence. Legal teams were mobilized to monitor and suppress any leaks. Stories that did emerge were swiftly denied or labeled false and defamatory. Social media accounts pushing rumors were targeted for removal. A network of PR professionals worked tirelessly to redirect the public's attention toward charitable work, interviews, and lavish lifestyle reveals, creating a steady stream of positive coverage designed to drown out whispers of scandal. However, as is often the case, secrets have a way of leaking. Former staff members, growing frustrated with their forced silence and fearing legal repercussions, began reaching out anonymously to journalists. They shared fragments of the story, the tense atmosphere, the midnight arguments, the silent treatment Harry endured. Each whisper added fuel to the growing fire, though none dared reveal everything for fear of lawsuits. Tom Bower's investigation relied heavily on these cautious confidants. Through months of piecing together accounts, Bower constructed a timeline that painted a picture of a cover-up both elaborate and effective. This was not a one-off, Bower explained. It was a coordinated effort by the Sussex team to rewrite history before the public ever heard the truth. The question remains, why would the Sussexes go to such lengths to bury what might be a personal disagreement? The answer lies in the stakes. In Hollywood and the royal world alike, image is everything. For Meghan and Harry, their value as public figures, contracts, endorsements, and speaking engagements depends on maintaining a narrative of unity, strength, and moral high ground. Any crack in that story could spell disaster, both financially and emotionally. Moreover, the royal institution itself remains a silent observer. While the family publicly keeps its distance, sources suggest palace aides quietly monitor the situation, wary of another scandal that could damage the monarchy's already fragile reputation. In essence, the cover-up was as much about protecting Harry as it was about protecting Meghan. But at what cost? To silence such a potentially explosive secret requires loyalty, fear, and control, ingredients that can poison relationships and erode trust. As this story continues to unravel, the shadow of that night looms large, reminding us all that behind the glamour and headlines, human emotions and mistakes are still very much at play. Amidst the silence imposed by the Sussex camp and their legal teams, the alleged private messages between Meghan Markle and Tyler Perry began to surface in hushed conversations and guarded leaks. These texts, reportedly obtained by Piers Morgan and others through undisclosed sources, paint a picture far different from the polished public personas seen on red carpets and televised interviews. The leaked messages span months, a digital diary of late-night conversations filled with intimacy, coded language, and a level of emotional dependency that, according to experts, raises eyebrows well beyond casual friendship. One message, dated just days after Meghan and Harry's arrival at Perry's Beverly Hills mansion, reads, "You always see me when no one else does." The affectionate tone, paired with a heart emoji, suggests a connection rooted in more than just support during a difficult time. In another exchange, Perry writes, "You're stronger than you think, and I'm here when you need to escape." Meghan replies with a simple, "Thank you for being my rock." Such expressions of reliance and comfort might seem harmless at face value, but when read within the context of the couple's reported marital strain, they take on a different weight. Communication experts who reviewed the messages anonymously noted a pattern of emotional closeness that could be interpreted as boundary crossing. Dr. Elaine Matthews, a psychologist specializing in relationship dynamics, remarked, "These texts suggest a relationship that fulfills emotional needs typically reserved for a spouse or intimate partner." It's not uncommon in high-stress situations, but it can be problematic if it undermines the primary relationship. Among the texts are references to secret meetings, late-night talks, and a shared understanding that goes beyond friendship. At one point, Meghan writes, "Sometimes I feel like you're the only one who truly gets me." Perry responds, "And I always will." These words, simple yet loaded with meaning, have been the focal point of much speculation. Critics argue they reveal an emotional affair, while defenders insist they are nothing more than the expressions of two close friends supporting each other through a tumultuous period. But what of the alleged footage that Piers Morgan alluded to during his live broadcast? Though never fully released to the public, insiders claim the video captures moments of physical closeness, touches, shared laughter, and proximity on a couch that would seem, to many, inappropriate given the circumstances. If these texts and images are authentic, they offer a rare glimpse into a secret world where Meghan and Tyler's relationship defied conventional boundaries. However, questions remain about their provenance and intent. Who leaked these messages? Was it an act of betrayal from within the Sussex household, or a calculated move by external parties seeking to damage Meghan's reputation? Meghan's legal team has categorically denied the authenticity of the messages, labeling them as fabricated and invasive. Tyler Perry's representatives have declined to comment, and Harry's camp remains silent, fueling further speculation. Yet, the emotional impact of these revelations cannot be ignored. For Harry, the discovery of such messages could feel like a breach of trust of the deepest kind, especially when paired with the memory of that night in the mansion. Friends of Harry report that he struggled privately with feelings of jealousy and heartbreak, compounded by the relentless public pressure and his own battles with mental health. The Sussex's story is one of love, ambition, and sacrifice. But the leaked messages suggest it is also a story of vulnerability, misplaced trust, and perhaps betrayal. In this digital age, where private conversations can become public weapons, the line between friendship and something more becomes perilously thin. As the saga continues to unfold, these messages remain at the heart of a debate that divides public opinion and challenges the narrative the Sussexes have fought so hard to build. Are they proof of a secret romance, or just the collateral damage of a high-profile couple under extraordinary stress? In the next chapter, we will delve into the toll this hidden relationship has taken on Harry and Meghan's marriage, exploring the emotional and psychological fractures that followed. Because sometimes, the greatest betrayals are not loud and dramatic, they are whispered in the quiet moments between texts. The pressures of fame, isolation, and relentless scrutiny can fracture even the strongest of marriages. For Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, the strain following the alleged incident with Tyler Perry was more than just a headline. It became the silent fracture line running through their relationship. Friends close to the couple describe a once vibrant partnership slowly unraveling beneath the weight of secrets and suspicion. Before the incident, Meghan and Harry were often described as inseparable, united in their mission to forge a new path beyond royal constraints. But as weeks turned into months after that night in Beverly Hills, insiders say a coldness crept in, a distance neither could fully bridge. Sources reveal that Harry began spending increasing amounts of time away from the mansion, seeking solace in long drives along the Pacific Coast Highway or retreats to secluded beaches. He was a man searching for peace in a storm he couldn't control, one confidant said. Meanwhile, Meghan's reliance on Tyler Perry deepened. Their friendship, once a source of comfort, appeared to overshadow her connection with Harry. Staff members reportedly noticed Meghan confiding more in Perry, sharing her frustrations and fears while Harry grew quieter. Relationship experts familiar with high-profile couples weighed in on the situation. Dr. Elaine Matthews noted, when one partner forms a deep emotional connection outside the marriage, especially under stress, it can create feelings of abandonment and insecurity for the other. This dynamic often leads to a cycle of withdrawal and tension. Anonymous insiders claim Harry's trust was severely shaken, not necessarily by confirmed betrayal, but by the emotional closeness he observed between Meghan and Perry. It is said that Harry felt like an outsider in his own marriage, battling feelings of jealousy and confusion while trying to uphold his public duties and personal integrity. The emotional toll on Meghan was significant as well. Navigating her new life away from the monarchy, under constant media fire, and dealing with her husband's growing distance, Meghan reportedly struggled with anxiety and isolation. Tyler Perry, ever the supportive friend, became her anchor. In public, the Sussexes continued to project unity and strength. Their joint interviews and appearances showcased a couple committed to their shared vision. Yet, behind closed doors, cracks appeared. One source close to the couple revealed they were trying so hard to convince the world, and maybe themselves, that everything was fine. But the tension was palpable. Mental health experts suggest that the combination of public scrutiny and private marital challenges can exacerbate feelings of isolation and stress. Harry, who has been open about his struggles with mental health, may have found himself caught between his loyalty to Meghan and the pain of his own doubts. Observers note subtle shifts in Harry's demeanor during public events, moments where his usual warmth seemed clouded by worry or fatigue. Meghan, too, at times displayed a guardedness uncharacteristic of her former self. The couple's relationship with the media added another layer of complexity. Both had experienced betrayal and invasion of privacy, making trust a rare commodity. Their attempts to control their narrative often backfired, intensifying public speculation and fueling a cycle of rumors and denials. Amidst the turmoil, their children became a source of solace and motivation. Both Meghan and Harry expressed a desire to protect their family from the glare of the spotlight, striving to create a sense of normalcy despite the chaos. Yet, insiders suggest that the emotional distance between the parents occasionally seeped into their parenting, leaving staff and friends concerned about the family's overall well-being. As this chapter of their lives unfolded, questions arose about the sustainability of their marriage. Could a relationship survive under such strain? Would Harry and Meghan find a way back to each other, or was the damage irreversible? Some experts argue that in high-profile relationships, where image and perception are paramount, personal issues are often swept under the rug, only to resurface with greater intensity later. For Harry and Meghan, the choice seemed clear: maintain a united front at all costs or risk public collapse. But what happens when the cost is too high? In the following chapters, we will examine how the public reacted to these revelations, how Tyler Perry responded, and what all this means for the future of the Sussexes. Because in the world of fame and royalty, even the strongest marriages can become fragile castles of sand. As news of the alleged scandal spread, fueled by Tom Bower's investigation and Piers Morgan's relentless broadcasts, the public reaction was immediate and explosive. Social media platforms became battlegrounds, with opinions sharply divided and emotions running high. For Meghan and Harry supporters, the revelations were yet another unfair attack on a couple already besieged by relentless criticism. Many took to Twitter and Instagram to defend Meghan, calling the claims baseless, racist, and nothing more than a smear campaign. Hashtags like #StandWithMeghan and #ProtectTheSussexes trended as fans rallied to shield the couple from what they perceived as an orchestrated character assassination. Celebrity allies, too, stepped into the fray. Oprah Winfrey voiced support for Meghan, condemning the media's relentless pursuit of the Duchess and warning against believing unverified allegations. Actress Priyanka Chopra spoke candidly about the toll public scrutiny takes on mental health, urging compassion over judgment. On the opposite side, critics seized on the controversy as confirmation of what they had long suspected, that Meghan's rise was fueled by manipulation and deceit. Tabloids splashed headlines accusing her of infidelity and casting doubt on the authenticity of her marriage to Harry. Piers Morgan's fervent broadcasts gave voice to a swelling chorus of skepticism, with viewers expressing shock, disappointment, and even outrage. Discussion forums and YouTube comment sections became flooded with debates. Some questioned Harry's judgment, accusing him of blind loyalty, while others speculated on Tyler Perry's role, wondering whether his involvement crossed professional boundaries. The media landscape fractured into camps: those who viewed Meghan as a victim of media bias and racial prejudice, and those who saw her as a calculating figure orchestrating a public relations coup. Polls conducted in the UK and US revealed a stark split in public opinion, reflecting broader cultural and political divides. Younger audiences tended to support Meghan and Harry, emphasizing empathy and privacy rights, while older demographics were more likely to believe the allegations and criticize the couple's decisions. Amid the turmoil, some commentators urged caution. Media ethics experts highlighted the dangers of trial by social media and the impact of unverified leaks on personal lives. They called for restraint and respect for privacy, emphasizing that public figures deserve the same protections as anyone else. Yet, despite the calls for caution, the narrative had taken on a life of its own. The Sussexes' story became a symbol of larger societal debates about race, privilege, loyalty, and the price of fame. In this charged atmosphere, every statement, interview, and social media post was scrutinized for hidden meanings and clues. The couple's recent projects, podcasts, documentaries, and public appearances were analyzed through the lens of scandal, with critics and fans alike searching for signs of strain or contrition. The public reaction also influenced the royal family's own communication strategy. Buckingham Palace issued carefully worded statements expressing hope for the couple's privacy and well-being, while quietly reinforcing boundaries around royal protocols. Meanwhile, Hollywood's response was more muted. Tyler Perry maintained his silence, avoiding direct engagement with the controversy. Industry insiders speculated about the potential damage to his reputation, given the intense scrutiny now directed his way. Ultimately, the public reaction underscored the complex dynamics at play, a mixture of personal loyalty, cultural identity, media sensationalism, and the enduring fascination with royalty. As this story unfolds, the court of public opinion remains divided, leaving Meghan and Harry to navigate not only their personal challenges but also the storm of judgment and speculation swirling around them. For years, Tyler Perry had been known as Hollywood's benevolent giant, a man who rose from hardship to become a powerhouse producer, director, and philanthropist. His reputation was that of a generous friend and mentor, especially to those navigating the complexities of fame and race in the entertainment industry. When he stepped forward to offer refuge to Meghan and Harry during their royal fallout, many saw it as a natural extension of that generosity. But when whispers of a secret relationship between Perry and Meghan began to circulate, the stakes for Perry became incredibly high. His brand, carefully cultivated over decades, faced an unprecedented challenge. Initially, Perry maintained a cautious silence. For weeks after the first rumors surfaced, he declined all interview requests and avoided social media engagement. His publicist issued a brief statement. Tyler Perry values his privacy and that of his friends. He does not comment on rumors or speculation. Yet, the pressure mounted. Tabloid headlines and online chatter threatened to overshadow his latest film projects and philanthropic efforts. Industry insiders grew increasingly concerned about the potential fallout. Then, in a rare move, Perry chose to address the controversy. Not through interviews or press conferences, but via a heartfelt post on his official social media channels. In the message, Perry wrote, "In times of chaos and uncertainty, it's vital to protect your peace and stay true to yourself. I have been a friend to many, and that will never change. But sometime." The post was met with mixed reactions. Supporters praised Perry's dignity and restraint, viewing his words as a subtle but firm denial of the allegations. Critics, however, saw it as evasive, interpreting the lack of outright denial as an admission by omission. Behind the scenes, sources suggest Perry held private conversations with both Meghan and Harry, attempting to mediate the growing tensions. Perry, according to insiders, sought to maintain harmony and protect the fragile relationships among the trio. However, the pressure of the scandal reportedly weighed heavily on Perry. Friends described him as stressed and withdrawn, a stark contrast to his usual charismatic and larger-than-life persona. Some insiders claimed that Perry considered stepping back from his public role entirely to focus on his personal life and reputation management. Others believed he was determined to weather the storm and emerge stronger. Meanwhile, Hollywood circles buzzed with speculation. Would Perry's long-standing career survive this association? Would studios and investors reconsider partnerships? As the dust settled, Perry remained a figure shrouded in ambiguity, neither confirming nor denying the nature of his relationship with Meghan Markle, but clearly affected by the public scrutiny. The impact on Meghan and Harry's circle was palpable. Their closest allies grew wary of the growing media attention, fearing it could unravel years of careful image building. The question lingered: how much influence did Tyler Perry truly have over Meghan during this turbulent period? And how deep did their connection go beyond friendship? In the next chapter, we'll explore Harry's personal journey through this emotional storm, his feelings of betrayal, isolation, and the difficult choices he faced as his world shifted beneath him. Because sometimes, the most painful battles are fought in silence. The weight of betrayal is a heavy burden, especially when it comes from those closest to you. For Prince Harry, the alleged incident with Meghan and Tyler Perry marked not just a personal crisis but a profound turning point in his emotional and psychological journey. Friends and insiders describe Harry during this period as a man caught in an emotional maelstrom. The man who had once been celebrated for his charm, humor, and resilience seemed to shrink under the crushing pressure of doubt, heartbreak, and public scrutiny. According to those close to him, Harry grappled privately with a complex mixture of feelings: anger at the perceived betrayal, guilt over his decision to leave the royal family, and a deep sense of loneliness exacerbated by the isolation of his new life in America. Mental health professionals suggest that such compounded stress can lead to a breakdown in emotional well-being. Harry, who had openly discussed his struggles with anxiety and trauma following his mother's death, was reportedly pushed to the edge. He was carrying wounds no one could see, said a confidant. The incident with Meghan and Tyler was like salt in an open sore. Harry's behavior became increasingly erratic. Staff at the mansion reported long nights where he would pace the halls, restless and withdrawn. Friends noticed him canceling meetings, avoiding public appearances, and retreating into silence. There were also moments of visible vulnerability. During private conversations, Harry allegedly confided fears that his marriage was unraveling and expressed frustration at feeling powerless to change the narrative dominating headlines. The tension between Harry and Meghan deepened, but out of respect for their children and the public eye, both made efforts to maintain appearances. Yet, the emotional distance was palpable. Some sources say Harry considered leaving Meghan, believing that stepping away was the only way to find peace. Others suggest he stayed out of a sense of duty, to their children, to his family, and perhaps to himself. The emotional toll manifested in subtle but significant ways. Harry's once bright demeanor darkened. His health reportedly suffered from stress-induced symptoms. Close friends feared for his well-being but respected his privacy. At the same time, Harry sought support from trusted allies, including longtime friends and mental health professionals. Therapy sessions reportedly became a regular part of his routine, a space where he could confront the turmoil consuming him. Yet, even in these private moments, the shadow of the scandal loomed large. The questions haunted him. Was Meghan truly unfaithful? Had Tyler Perry betrayed his friendship? Could he trust anyone anymore? These internal battles played out against a backdrop of relentless media coverage and social media storms. Every move Harry made was scrutinized, every expression dissected. The pressure was relentless. Despite the pain, Harry showed resilience. He continued working on philanthropic projects, supporting causes close to his heart, and advocating for mental health awareness. These endeavors, some say, were attempts to reclaim control and find purpose amidst chaos. But the damage was done. The incident and its aftermath left an indelible mark on Harry's psyche and his marriage. It challenged his sense of identity and forced him to reevaluate relationships he had once taken for granted. As the public watched from afar, few could imagine the private anguish beneath the headlines. In the next chapter, we'll explore how Bower and Piers Morgan responded to the growing controversy, doubling down on their claims, facing backlash, and shaping the narrative that continues to captivate audiences worldwide. Because in the end, truth and perception are often locked in a battle far more complex than meets the eye. Bower and Piers Morgan had ignited a firestorm that was only growing more intense. Rather than retreating in the face of criticism, both men doubled down, determined to press their claims and keep the spotlight firmly trained on Meghan Markle and the alleged scandal involving Tyler Perry. Bower, in a series of interviews and appearances, insisted that his investigation was thorough, based on credible sources, and reflective of a deeper truth the public had yet to grasp. He articulated a narrative of betrayal, secrecy, and the lengths to which the Sussexes would go to protect their image. "We're not here to sensationalize," Bower told a prominent news outlet. "We're here to uncover what has been hidden for too long." There are multiple accounts that corroborate this story. The silence from Meghan and Harry only fuels suspicion. Morgan, meanwhile, continued his relentless broadcasts, often framing himself as the lone voice daring to challenge the royal narrative. He shared additional evidence he claimed to have obtained, teasing more messages and footage that would soon surface. His tone was unapologetic, combative, and unapologetically personal. "People want to protect Meghan because it's woke to do so," Morgan declared during one segment. "But the truth doesn't care about your politics. Harry walked into a situation no husband should ever have to endure, and the world deserves to know." Their aggressive stance drew both applause and condemnation. Supporters praised their courage and tenacity, while detractors accused them of bullying, racism, and fueling dangerous conspiracy theories. Legal experts weighed in, suggesting that if Morgan or Bower could not substantiate their claims with solid evidence, they could face defamation lawsuits from Meghan or Tyler Perry. The Sussex legal team was reportedly monitoring the situation closely. In response to the backlash, both men doubled down on their rhetoric. Bower published a follow-up article expanding on his sources, while Morgan hosted a special broadcast featuring guest commentators who criticized the Sussexes' silence and called for transparency. This escalation turned the story into a cultural flashpoint, intersecting issues of race, media bias, celebrity, and the power dynamics within royal and Hollywood circles. The Sussexes, meanwhile, remained largely silent. Their public statements were measured, emphasizing privacy and family well-being. Meghan's legal representatives continued to deny any wrongdoing, labeling the claims as false and defamatory. Harry made no public comment. The tension between public curiosity and personal boundaries reached a fever pitch. News outlets dedicated segments to analyzing every detail, from body language to social media posts, searching for clues or contradictions. Social media wars raged, with hashtags promoting both sides trending worldwide. The polarized public became entrenched, and the story took on a life of its own, far beyond the control of those directly involved. Behind the scenes, sources reported that Meghan and Harry were working to rebuild their brand, engaging in new projects and initiatives designed to shift focus away from the scandal. Tyler Perry, too, sought to reclaim his narrative, though the shadow of controversy lingered. This chapter of the saga underscored a truth about modern celebrity. In a world driven by instant information and viral stories, the battle for narrative control is as fierce as any legal or personal conflict. As Bower and Morgan pushed forward, the question remained: how much longer could the Sussexes withstand the relentless scrutiny? In the next chapter, we will turn our attention to the royal family's response, how Charles, William, and Kate process the unfolding scandal and what it means for the future of the monarchy. Because sometimes, the greatest storms begin in the private chambers of power. Behind the imposing walls of Buckingham Palace, a different kind of storm was brewing, one marked by silence, guarded conversations, and strategic observation. As the allegations involving Meghan Markle, Tyler Perry, and Prince Harry unfolded in the public eye, the royal family watched closely, calculating their response in a world where every word and gesture was scrutinized. King Charles, now the reigning monarch, faced a delicate balancing act. On one hand, he was a father and grandfather, concerned deeply for Harry and Meghan's well-being and the future of his family. On the other, he was the custodian of an institution that relies heavily on image, tradition, and public trust. Palace insiders revealed that Charles was privately frustrated by the continuing scandals surrounding the Sussexes. While publicly maintaining a stance of support and respect, behind closed doors he reportedly questioned the wisdom of Harry and Meghan's choices and the damage their actions were causing to the monarchy's reputation. Prince William, next in line to the throne, was said to be equally concerned. The estrangement between him and Harry had become a topic of much speculation, and this latest controversy only deepened the rift. William's circle allegedly advised him to distance himself further from the Sussexes to protect his own family's image. Kate Middleton, the Duchess of Cambridge, was reportedly caught in the crossfire. Known for her diplomacy and composure, Kate was said to be working quietly behind the scenes to maintain a semblance of unity, while managing the intense media spotlight that inevitably followed any royal discord. Within the palace, aides and advisors were monitoring the situation closely. The emergence of such a personal and explosive scandal was unprecedented in recent royal history, and managing its fallout required careful coordination. Security protocols were reportedly heightened, not just for protection but to control leaks and information flow. The palace communications team worked tirelessly to craft statements that acknowledged the human side of the Sussexes' struggles without inviting further media frenzy. However, the royal family's official response remained notably restrained. Public statements expressed hope for privacy and healing, but no direct engagement with the allegations was made. This silence was a strategic choice, reflecting a long-standing royal approach to scandals: avoid feeding the media fire by staying silent. Yet, behind this silence, sources suggested the family was deeply affected. Concerns about the monarchy's future and the impact of continuous public controversies weighed heavily on senior royals. The Sussex scandal was seen as not just a personal matter, but a threat to the institution itself. Political analysts noted that the British monarchy operates within a complex web of public sentiment, media influence, and constitutional expectations. Scandals such as these risk eroding the delicate balance that keeps the royal family relevant and respected. The palace's silent watch also included discreet monitoring of Harry and Meghan's public engagements and media projects. There was an understanding that the Sussexes' actions abroad had repercussions back home, influencing public opinion and potentially destabilizing the monarchy's standing. Despite this, efforts were reportedly made to maintain lines of communication, albeit limited and cautious, between the Sussexes and senior family members. These channels aimed to manage misunderstandings and possibly pave the way for future reconciliation. Yet, the gulf remained wide. The combination of personal grievances, media battles, and diverging life paths had created a chasm that seemed increasingly difficult to bridge. In this environment, every new revelation about Meghan, Harry, or Tyler Perry was felt keenly within the palace walls. It was a reminder that, in the royal family, personal and public lives are inseparable, and that private storms can have seismic effects on centuries-old institutions. As we continue to unravel this story, the question looms: how will the royal family navigate the fallout? Will silence remain the strategy, or is a more direct response inevitable? In the next chapter, we'll begin to bring this story full circle, examining the emotional and public fallout that ties back to the very first moments of this scandal, moments that still reverberate today. Because in the world of royalty, the past is